My personal love with the book of Deuteronomy started when in 1999, when I visited, well, maybe earlier than that. I was always fascinated with the book of Deuteronomy. And the reason why I was fascinated with the book of Deuteronomy because of the Sermon on the Mount. When in the Sermon on the Mountain, you see this, but I say unto you, this phrases by Jesus. It's been taken by many generations of Christians as the way to understand that God has nullified the Torah. That's why I was interested in diving into this and studying it. The book of Deuteronomy is confusing because when you see it it's a Greek name, Deuteronomy. Deuteros means second, and nomos means law. So, second law, why do I need a law for the second time? Well, this is not exactly the law in a sense how people understand. For example, this is what it says in verse 5. Moses began to explain this law. Which is this law? There is no single legislation that Moses was explaining. That already tells us that Torah is actually a very, I would say, multi-faceted or multi-faced book. It contains several styles. What we have is, first and foremost, the narrative style. A narrative is found in Genesis, in Exodus 1 through 20. It reappears through Exodus after the chapter 20 in different chapters. Then the book of Numbers, that's narrative. But then you have a legal text. And the legal text is, of course, starting from Exodus 20. It intertwines all these commandments, how to build the sanctuary. Then it intertwines with the narrative. Then the entire book of, basically the legal part, what is called the book of the covenant, which is Exodus 20 through 24. That's the book of the covenant. Then you have the Levitical Code of Holiness, which is the entire book of Leviticus. And then you have the book of Numbers, and the legal section and the book of narrative section of book of Numbers are intertwined. Plus, the book of Numbers has quite a long list of names, which is in chapters 1 and 2. Then that's the legal style. But when it comes to the book of Deuteronomy, it's a very unique book because it's one big homily. This is where the homily begins. The homily begins with this. This is the chapter, the verse 1. That's where the homily begins. So chapter 1, verse 5, that's the beginning of the homily, with the words, "The Lord spoke to us in Horeb." That's the beginning of Moses's homily. This homily goes all the way to chapter 30. And that's the end of the homily. Look at chapter 31. It says, "Then Moses went and spoke these words to all Israel." So this is a one huge continuous homily, size of 30 chapters. Particularly, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 parashot. That's what's done in one long speech. I don't know if it's helpful to you, but it was always my primary focus for any book to be able to have a bird's eye view of the book. This is back in December when I did a seminar on how to study the Bible, which you can actually see at the Shalom Learning Center website. They come up, Max is putting them one by one, and I don't remember if I said this, but one of the biggest challenges of people studying the Bible, they often are like in this parable about the ant with a magnifying glass. So an ant got a magnifying glass, and so he began to play with it. And he comes to a bee, and he sees that the face of a bee is a little bit smeared with a pollen. So he takes the magnifying glass and he looks at the face of a bee, but with the magnifying glass, he is not able to see the face of the bee anymore. What he sees are the particles of pollen from the flower, and these particles are some kind of obviously incorrect shape. And he says, "Oh, what an ugly bee," because this is all he's seen. And then he looks at his whiskers, and he sees the part of the whiskers, and his whiskers again are large and ugly, so he can't understand whom is he looking at. This is very unfortunate. One of the totally biggest mistake of the people who study the Bible is they're like this little ant with a magnifying glass. They come to the verse, and this is what actually preachers do very often in churches. They look at the verse through the magnifying glass. So the magnifying glass immediately blows the verse up, and the preacher sees words. The words resonate with something he's thinking on his own. That's the verse I'm gonna preach about, because what a nice words. These two words are so nice. And here goes the sermon. Nothing about even the verse, nothing about the book. It's all about two words which resonated with some of his philosophical thinking. This is why, since my beginning of my walk with the Lord, studying the Bible, I never liked this. I always loved to have a bird's eye view of the book. And very rare preachers were able to present the bird's eye view of the book. But it's very important. That's why I gave you the bird's eye view of the whole Torah, talking about the different literary styles. So now I'm trying to give you a bird's eye view of the book of Deuteronomy. And the book of Deuteronomy is basically 30 chapters of it is, and I will switch the share screen again. To show a different screen here. This is what I referred to. This is this is a part of the Shalom Learning Center website, and you can look on the Shalom Learning Center website, which are the different parashas, and looking at what is being studied. Now you know, okay, Devarim, it's Deuteronomy 1:1 through 3:22, and a Haftarah is here. And you can click on that for those who never looked at this, and you can see first readings, and you can even hear the read. So these are the possibilities of the website. So if you're interested, please do use it. And so going back to the book, see, it consists of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 Torah portions. And as you can see, all the way 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is the speech of Moses. Why is such a speech? It has dual purpose. Let's talk about purpose number one. In order to do this, we need to read from the beginning. And let me switch. So, these are the words. This words, Devarim, is actually the name, gives the name of the book and a parasha. So these are the words which Moses spoke to all Israel on this side of Jordan in the wilderness, in the plain between Suf and all these other geographical names I'm going to talk in a few seconds. It's 11th day journey from Horeb by the way of Mount Seir to Kadesh Barnea. Okay, so let me put another screen here. Just give me 1 second. We're going to be looking at the map. So okay. This is where we are, our little map. Okay, let me kind of move it. And enlarge it. Okay, so this is the capital of Egypt. The people of Israel were scattered all over. They were around here. That's the land Goshen. And they began to move to Mount Sinai. That's where Mount Sinai is. So this point is called Horeb. Okay? So then they went, as it says, from Horeb. This is Horeb. This is where they were. That's the Mount Sinai. And so they went up here because, see, this is, we'll talk about this in a moment. It says through Mount Seir. See Seir here? That is currently, just a second, if I can show another layer. Just a second, let's see, I'm not sure if it will. Oh, okay. Modern nations. Just let me show you. See? This one is Egypt. What you see in Seir is Jordan. And they keep walking on that road, and then they end up right here. That's, let me take this layer away. Hold on. Let me take it back. You see? Did you see the map? I was switching between the layers. Can you see the map clearly?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, so this is Seir. They keep going up. This is Kadesh Barnea until they end up right here across Jericho. Let me enlarge. This is Jericho, and this is Mount Nebo right here. Right here. This is where they are located. Okay. And so from here, to here is 11-day journey by caravan. Now the question is, let's look when it happened. It happened, now it came to pass in the 40th year. Let me stop sharing and put a different share. So it came to pass in the 40th year and 11th month. So this is how long it took them to make what is normally 11-day journey. Isn't this interesting? Why? Why? This is the question that Moses is trying to answer. This is the question. This is what really entails in the word explanation of this law. This is the 30 chapters of the book of Deuteronomy that are dedicated solely to Moses' speech to the new generation of Israelites who were born in the wilderness, or those who were only 20 or below the 20 when they were at Mount Sinai. So the book of Deuteronomy, let me continue explaining the bird's eye view for a second. That big homily contains of two parts. Starting from chapter 1, verse 6, and maybe I'll just draw it. Oh, I got a little problem here. Just 1 second. Okay. Excuse me. So, the Deuteronomy chapter, Deuteronomy, okay? Okay. So you got 1 through 6, it's intro. then 1:6 through 30, Deuteronomy 30, verse 20. It's, let me just do like this. (30:20) is Moses' homily. Okay? And it consists of 2 parts. Part 1 is 1:6 through 11:32. It's the story, and then, or narrative. Then you have 12:1 through 25:19. 25:19. It's the legal. And then you have third part, 26:1 through 30:20. This is covenant. Then what you have is, you have chapter 31, 1 through 29. It's a conclusion. Then you have 32, Song of Moses. And 32 and 33. Song, and I'll put it this way. Song and blessing of Moses. And then you have 34, death of Moses. So that is basically the whole structure of the book of Deuteronomy. In my very poor handwriting, but I wanted to give you a bird's eye view. I wanted to give you that bird's eye view so that you would understand what you're reading. Because it's so important when you open the book today, you have a table of content and you know what you're reading. So now you know what you're reading. So it's also pretty interesting. I will show you this. From here to here, it's Moses who writes. From here to the death of Moses, it's Joshua. So Joshua is most likely the writer of the last 4 chapters of the book of Deuteronomy. How do I know that? Let's go to the Bible. When we go to Joshua, book of Joshua, chapter 24, verse 26, it says here, "Then Joshua wrote these words in the book of the law of God." So Joshua actually did not write a separate book. Joshua wrote his entire book, what we know today in our English Bibles, the book of Joshua. He wrote it, he appended it, that's what it is. He appended it to the book of the law. And the book of the law is the Torah, Sefer Torah. So basically, when we talk about the Torah and we talk about the Pentateuch, Penta means 5, so it's 5 books. Nope. It looks like during the time of Joshua, it was Hexateuch, which means 6 books. So after Moses, Joshua continues writing. So that's when we have in chapter 31, we have this break where Joshua takes the pen from Moses. He records, Moses sings the last song, Moses gives the last blessings, and then he goes up on the Mount Nibla for his final moments on earth. That's what happens to Moses. And of course, Moses is not carrying the book, because look at Deuteronomy 31, and it says very clearly here, just a second. Verse 9. So Moses wrote this law and delivered it to the priest, the son of Levi, who bore the Ark of the Covenant, and to all the elders of Israel. Moses commanded them, saying, at the end of every 7 years, appointed time, Feast of Tabernacle, and so forth. So then there is a repetition in verse 24. He says, therefore, it was that Moses completed writing of the words of this law in a book. When they were finished, Moses commanded the Levites who bore the Ark of the Covenant, said, take this book of the law and put it beside there. So as you see, chapter 31 describes the completion of the book of the law. So Moses finishes his work. He sings the song. Joshua records the song, appends to the book of the law, and then keeps writing. He describes the death of Moses, And then he keeps writing about his own experience in the conquest of Canaan. I hope it makes sense to you. But this is why you have this.
We've been writing all those verses.
Yeah. This is why we have this structure of the book of Deuteronomy. Okay? So now, knowing what's in there, and we read the intro indicates the problem. The intro says that they are 11-day journey from Mount Sinai, but on the other hand, that 11-day journey by caravan, it took them 40 years to traverse. Something is not clear. So it's interesting, some of you did go with me on these journeys, and some of you went just a little different road and different direction. Let me go back to our map. This red line, it's still a highway. This highway here is this, see? That's Amman, the capital of Jordan. Oh,
we cannot see it. Sorry.
Yeah, now you can see it. So see this red thing? Here would be Amman, the capital of Jordan. So this still remains a major highway which connects the capital to the port of Aqaba. So Sinai is here, and the highways that are built today, they're actually built upon the very well-known routes. Just paved them for the buses to go and trucks. So you go from here all the way to to the Red Sea. Here is this little point which connects on this side. See, this is Arava. That's a valley that used to be a place where Jordan River would flow into the Red Sea. Now it's dry because of the Dead Sea. So right here is a border of three countries. Here's Egypt, here's Eilat in Israel, and here is Jordan. And of course, here goes Saudi Arabia. And so they crossed right here and they started going up here. So usually if we end up in Aqaba, it will take us 1-day journey to Petra right here. And then it will take us another day journey to reach Amman on a bus. So some of you been on this route, but you were going the other direction, not northern direction, but southern direction. But Israelites were going the opposite direction on the same highway. For some of you who've been with us on that trip, it should be making some sense. And so why from here to here, it took them 40 years. That's what Moses is explaining right here to the new generation. How does he do this? He does it using the narrative. He does it using the narrative. And in the first chapter of the book of Deuteronomy, starting from verse 6, we see the narrative. First of all, it says that they were at the Mount Horeb, which is Sinai. That's where they lingered for more than a year. That's the time, since the time they have received the 10 Commandments, through the period where they received the rest of the commandments and built the sanctuary. After the sanctuary was ready, God tells them to turn on a journey. And so their original journey, I'm going to switch the share. Their original journey, now watch. So this is the Mount Sinai. They are supposed to go right in here. See the direction of my cursor? Straight through. But 40 years later, they diverted this way. So what happened on the way?
Sasha, do that again, please.
You see, this is Mount Sinai. You see the cursor? They're going straight through. Straight through. See the Canaan? They're going the shortest route. But 40 years later, they're going curved route around this area. So, seeing this, I'll keep switching. Because when you actually, why am I doing this? I can show the Bible here. I am not rational by keeping switching. So, I'm going to go a different way. Here's the Bible. Here is Deuteronomy. And here's a larger text. So it says, turn and take your journey to go to the mountains of Amorites. Where are the mountains of Amorites? Right here. You see, it's very easy to see here because the green one is the low-lying land. This one are the plateaus. So from here, they had to travel downhill and then uphill right here. When they come right here, it's very easy for them to see the southern frontier of the land of Canaan, which actually goes right up to here. So that's their land. And it's very clearly visible and reachable here. So, see, I have set the land before you. Go in and possess the land that the Lord swore to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give to them and their descendants after that. Okay. So it's pretty clear, straightforward. Go and possess. So then we have a very interesting insertion, here is I, who is Moses. And what we have starting from Deuteronomy 1 to 9 is a story of how Moses organized the nation into the organized government. So I have lots of people, he says, like, how can I alone bear the problems and all your burdens and complain? Choose the wise and knowledgeable men among your tribes. And so the people of Israel said, all right, we'll choose the leaders of thousands, leaders of hundreds, leaders of 50s, leaders of 10s, and officers for your tribe. So it was organized as a state with the key component as judges. And so after this structure, so it's now organized crowd. Now it has judges. Now it has every government. And so they go up to the Kadesh Barnea right here. So they basically go from the area of Mount Sinai. They go right here. And so you have come to the mountain of Amorites. So this is the beginning of the mountain of Amorites. And so go and possess. And then again, they come near to me and said, let us send men before us and let them search out the land and bring back the word to us of the way by which we should go up, which is true. I mean, these are different ancient highways, so they're somewhere here in a valley. The ancient highway goes around here, and they have to kind of go right here. Here they end up at the T intersection and the road that takes to the major two fortresses, on both of which some of you guys who went with me visited, Beersheba and Arad. So, but they don't know, it's us who know, but they don't know. So they go, by the way, when you see today, this is the end of the territory of Egypt. This begins the state of Israel. So in today's, right here in this desert Paran, right here, they're into the a very, into most, what is now Israel. So let's see, but they want the spies. It's very interesting how the book of Numbers and book of Deuteronomy complement each other. But let me tell you in which way. Let me take you here. No. Let me take you here to the book of Numbers. And we are in chapter 13. So it's kind of interesting. Look at this. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, send men to spy out Canaan, which I am giving to the children of Israel. So Moses sent them into the wilderness of Paran. See, here's the wilderness of Paran. So they're right here. From the wilderness of Paran. So they're right here. So he sends them up here. So basically the reason why he sends them, because they, like now we have a map, back then they didn't have a map. They had to basically investigate how to find a suitable road for the whole bunch of people. And that's what they were supposed to see. That road they had to map out, like here. So, but the question is, look at this. Here it says, every one of you come near me. Who is me? Moses, and said, let us send a man before us. So it looks like it was a proposition from the Israelites. But here in Numbers 13, verse 1, it appears to be God's commandment. And this is one of the challenges with investigating the Torah, how to harmonize these two. And the way how you harmonize is this. There's one little particle that changes everything in Hebrew. Go with me. I have a parallel Hebrew text. And it says here, and you can see in the bottom, the translation, Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe Lamor, and the Lord spoke to Moses, and it says here, what's here? Shlach, send, and then you have lecha. This little thing, lecha, is what harmonizes what Deuteronomy says versus what the Numbers says, and unfortunately, New King James Bible doesn't pick up on it. It just says send men. No. Lacha means for yourself. So send men for yourself. In other words, this is not a command. So it's not like they stopped right here in the Paran desert and God comes in on the air with Moses. Moses, you know, kind of like God says, Moses is on the phone with the God and says, Lord God, what am I supposed to do? And God says, Moses, send man. No, this isn't how it happened. What we see the story is, this is the proposition from the people. The people came to Moses and they say, oh, we're afraid to go. Let us send them in. And apparently, Moses had to make a call in to God. And God replies to his call and says, okay, go ahead. I allow you to send. So God allowed this to happen, but he didn't initiate this to happen. God allowed it, honoring the request of the people. That was the situation. People were scared. But the plan pleased Moses well, and they went up into the mountains and came into the Valley of Ashcore. What is the Valley of Ashcore? Right here. Right here. See this? These areas are full of, Ashcore means pomegranate, and then it is full of grain. They took the fruit of the land into their hands. Well, let me tell you something, how it feels. I tell you, July is my favorite months of the year here in Vancouver Battleground. The most enjoyment I have in this month is to go to White Salmon and stretch my hand toward the branch and grab a feast full of sweet cherries from the tree. It excites me profoundly. And then go to the blueberry patch around here and eat from the blueberry bushes. And even here in Hillsborough, I was able, my wife was able to locate the gooseberry patch.
Oh, yes. Amen. And blueberries. Yeah.
And the gooseberry, and just even though they're prickly, but it's still just taking it, you know, honestly, I don't remember when have I ever even gone to the store to buy any fruit. Honestly, it doesn't taste like the same anymore. I go to this, I start with the strawberry and I make my way through raspberry, and when I pick myself, it excites me. Well, let me tell you something. Think about these people. 40 years. Manna, 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 manna. I don't know. Do you like to eat oatmeal all your life? It's very healthy. But every day, all day, oatmeal, sir. It's like in the Sherlock Holmes. I don't know. I would be feeling sad eating only oatmeal.
Breakfast, lunch, supper.
Even for breakfast, every day, all day, oatmeal. I would feel sad.
Catherine says she wouldn't mind eating oatmeal all,
Well, but I do have fruit with it.
as long as she's got fruit with it. Yeah.
Yeah, see? But no fruit, just oatmeal. Well, you can imagine manna, 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 and meat. They had meat. Manna, meat, manna, meat, manna, meat. It's like Kentucky, meat and taters country. I can't understand Kentuckians. They're difficult people. They don't know what the vegetable and fruit are. When we were in Cincinnati and there was a did you live in Kentucky ever, Kylie?
No, but I've been all over the Midwest and I've been to the South, and that's true.
Yeah, so you can imagine. I don't know. No, the only veggies they eat is a frozen frozen black beans. Oh, I can't stand frozen black beans. Anyway, so, but lots of meat. And they had lots of meat and lots of manna. Manna was supposed and probably had all nutritional needs, you know. But to be honest, I don't know if astronauts in America ever had what Soviet cosmonauts had for their food. But I remember on the space station Salyut 7, there was a crew of 2 record breakers which spent on an orbit 1 year. Yuri Romanenko and Georgy Grechko. Well, I tell you one thing. Later, they showed in a museum all these exhibits and that Salyut 7. And the most fun thing was what they ate. Do you know how they ate? They didn't have what American astronauts had on the shuttles. They had stuff which is similar. You have to squeeze it from the tube the same way as it's toothpaste. So the way they ate, they have these tubes looking like a toothpaste, and this is how they were eating for 1 year. And
Oh,
think about this. This is the whole 40 years. Can you imagine? And look at that. Some of them were born in a desert. More so, Egypt doesn't have grapes. Can you imagine? They went bananas when they saw grapes.
hmm.
They really went bananas when they saw grapes. But unfortunately, that sensation of excitement over the fruit in the land which will belong to them was overcome by a fear. They rebelled against God's command. And they said, because they came all but two brought a negative report. I'll tell you why they were afraid of this negative report. They were afraid of this of this because of, look at here, Arad. And those of you who've been with me, I intentionally take you to Arad. If you remember, Arad is on a high hill and a very tall walls, and this is the army. It's not your Roman legions who know how to take down anything. This is the bunch of not military trained Israelites who had no anything. And so, well, how they were supposed to do this? Well, if you go to Exodus 23, Moses told them how they was supposed to do this. This was in the book of the covenant. Exodus 23 says here, behold, I sent angel before you to keep you in a way and bring you into the place which I have prepared. Be aware of him and obey his voice. Do not provoke him. But indeed, if you obey his voice and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy to your enemies, an adversary to your adversaries. So God says, my angel is going to fight, not you. You're not going to fight. Think about it. How many people who are very skeptical about the Bible, they are actually skeptical, and you ask them, why are you so skeptical, negative about the Bible and God? And they're going to talk about the genocide, all these wars and stuff like this. But this is not what God intended to do. God intended to send angel. The angel was supposed to fight. My angel will go before you and bring you in to the Amorites, Hittites, the Perizzites. So here is the Amorites. That's the mount. That's the southern frontier. They are the nomads. Then you got the Perizzites, and you got the Canaanites, and you got the Hivites. So north, north, north. Okay? And I will cut them off. See, who is going to do it? Not you're going to fight and kill all of them. I will cut them off. You shall not bow to their gods nor serve, but you shall utterly overthrow them, break. So all they had to do is to break their places of worship and break their sacred pillars. What it says here next, I will send my fear before you. I will cause confusion among all the people, and I will make your enemies turn back to you. So the only thing Israelites were supposed to do is to show yourselves up. And then God was supposed to do what he did, dividing the Red Sea. It was that plan of God. I will send hornets before you, which shall drive out the Hivite, the Canaanite, and the Hittite before you. So hornets, fear, all kinds of things, that's what was supposed to do. Actually, we have that fear which is described in the book of Joshua. The book of Joshua, chapter 2, that's when the spies, see again, you have a spies, but only 2 spies, and they come to Jericho. These spies came as far as Hebron. That's where they took this place. So the Israelites are here, the spies come here. When you are talking about Joshua, the Israelites are here and the spies come here. Can you see it on the map?
Show that again.
In the case of the Torah, book of Numbers, Israelites are here, the spies come here.
Hmm.
When in the book of Joshua, Israelites are here and the spies come here. So you got 2 spies, not 12. So they go, here they encounter Rahab, and Rahab says to them, Joshua 2:9, I know that the Lord has given you the land, that the terror of you has fallen on us, and that all the inhabitants of the land are faint-headed because of you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the waters of the Red Sea. You see what was causing the fear? This distraction of Pharaoh's army. That's what caused the fear. That fear was supposed to drive out the Canaanites. So the Israelites had to show up. They had to go, but they didn't. What did they do? They began to kvetch. Have you ever heard the word kvetch?
Mm.
When you go to New York and you talk to New York Jews, that's when they kvetch, complain. So they began to kvetch. Oh, God hates us. Oh, why he brought us out of the land of Egypt to deliver us to Amorites and destroy. So these people are taller than we, and the cities are great and fortified. They were scared to storm because they were sure they were not listening to what God said. God said the fear will drive them out. So these cities, Beersheba, Arab, to these fortresses that the spies saw, they will be abandoned by Canaanites who would be fearful and run away. But the spies saw the fortification. They saw these warriors and said, we're afraid. Not listening to God and kvetch. And so this is what happened. Well, Moses says, do not be terrified. The Lord will fight. And yet, verse 32, you did not believe. You did not believe the Lord your God, who went in a way before you to search out a place for you to pitch your tent. So God is with them. It's not like today, you know, it's so different. It's so different because today, let's say you have to go someplace and I say, God is going before you. These words to us are abstract. We have to take them by fear. But back then they were not by fear, by faith. But back then it was not abstract. Back then it was concrete, because the pillar of fire and the pillar of cloud was there. that pillar that stretched out the Red Sea. So this was really, really challenging. It was a pinnacle situation. So the Lord finally heard the sound of the words and said, okay, you're not ready. Except Caleb and except Joshua, no one is going to enter, those who are older than 20. So you're going to go around 40 days in the wilderness. So turn around. That's what he say. They're here. Turn around. Go back. Turn around. Go back. Go back where you were. Well, then you answered and said to me. After Israelites heard that they were supposed to go back, you answered and said to me, we have sinned against the Lord. We will go up and fight. And the Lord said, don't tell them, do not go up. I am not among you. But they rebelled the second time. See, what we have here is this part of the story. It is this part of the story which is a pinnacle to God's justification. This story, which I marked in blue, Deuteronomy 1:42 through 44, this story is explaining why 40 years later Israel had to fight its way into the Canaan. The reason is very simple. The fear that was among the Canaanites dissipated. The fear that was among the Canaanites dissipated. It's not possible. It's like when you go to the dentist and he puts you need to work on your teeth and you open your mouth and he injects you with pain medication and you feel the numbness right here. And so while it's numb here, he can do everything you need to do and you don't feel it. And then but let's say something happened, your ear is numb, you're ready to go, and dentist is called for some urgent matter and shows up 15 minutes later. You're still in your chair, you're still ready, you open your mouth and he why? Because the medicine dissipated. So this is what happened. God injected these people while Israel was here. The news of the Red Sea crossing was still fresh. God injected these people with fear. 40 years later, nope. Especially after they fought here and got beaten. Every place they went, these people, instead of running away from them, they would organize coalition and Joshua had to fight because they heard 40 years ago we beat them, let us try again. You see? This is what happens. All the bloodshed in the Bible is explained in these verses if we understand them correctly. And it is explained as a presumptuous behavior, which was literally a temper tantrum. That's why it took them 40 years to get from here to here. They could have made it in a week. They could have done it within a few weeks and that land would be theirs. But they bickered and wasted the generation of time. And this is how the book of Deuteronomy begins, where Moses had to re-explain to the new generation why their fathers died in a desert. Well, that's a lesson to us, my friends, in our lives. To learn to trust God. To learn to understand that it is easier for us to follow God's way rather than bicker and have a tantrum and then have it and go and do the same thing, but it is going to take much harder. That's why Deuteronomy is so important, because it teaches the lesson to us, important, valuable lessons of our relations with the Lord. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, may we learn from the stories in the book of Deuteronomy that these were like images to us, so that we would not repeat those errors which were done before. Help us to see your character and your justice and your truth. Amen.